Hey guys, Chaz here, just talking more with Kyle about the race that he did a couple weeks ago. Kyle is also with me, so what's up, Kyle? Say hello, everyone.
Hey man, pleasure to be here. These are always fun and I learn a lot from listening to you, but now I get to provide some insight.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited for this. So tell me a little bit about this race. What field was it? Where's it at? What was the stats of the race?
So this was the part of a two-day Omnium, the UCLA road race in Criterium. So the road race had been the day before, and I just did the one field for that, the Cat 3s, and then this is day two, and this is the first race of the day. I don't have any teammates, but it's for the 30 plus 3/4. So I figured I might have a chance to have a good scoring on this, even though I hadn't done this road race the day before, so it wouldn't count towards the Omnium, but with Masters, I always like to jump in if I have a second race, as long as I have enough time to kind of relax between them.
Gotcha. Was there a headwind on this section? Because I noticed this dude looked like he was doing a big dig.
Yeah,
His speed's
so
not really that high.
this is in Victorville, California, which is notorious for winds, and yeah, there's a wicked headwind. It was like 20 mile an hour through this section right here.
Gotcha. Yeah, because you're on his wheel doing like 300 something watts and going like 21 miles an hour. I was like, geez, that's either the worst headwind ever or I didn't match this up right. But yeah, I mean this race. So how did it kind of start and play out?
Well, so there were a few people that I was marking. So even though this isn't their official team jersey, the FLX racing team are wearing the jersey of the guy right in front of me, and their racer Mike Starr was positioned to win the Omnium, and so I knew that they weren't going to fall too far back, so I wanted to keep an eye on them particularly. When it started off, I usually like to stay kind of near the front, but not on the front. But if people aren't going to pedal, I'll pedal at 200 watts at the beginning. But I was waiting for. Both of us were basically looking for somebody to come around us and maybe start speeding things up. But, it was kind of a slow start to begin with.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting. Like, I remember that the first corner, that dude who's behind you in red, he like took off and you guys kind of semi-gapped the field. I thought it's kind of weird how, I guess it's Masters racing maybe too. I know when the P12s, things start more explosive. There's always someone, they blow the whistle and someone always attacks instantly, and you're like, well, here we go, thanks for getting that out of the way. But I've noticed with the master races too, and a lot of the races you've been doing, you guys are super chill like the first couple laps.
Right, and I'm thankful for that, because I'll admit I'm not the best at clipping in, so
There's been a couple of times where I've totally done a whole lap unclipped because I couldn't get my pedal on. Anyway, so this is the team that you just said you were marking, and this guy attacks. That's honestly, it's a smart move to follow.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to have just looked back, and because I know from the year before that I won a race here the year before, I know people like to attack because there's a headwind on the finishing straight as well. So I happened to just look back and saw him coming up and was able to jump on his wheel. And this is Wes Watanabe, and he's very strong. He's like in his early 40s, but he always races like the P12 fields. A very strong rider, so I was definitely watching him.
Nice. Now, did you want to work with him, or were you just kind of like, whatever?
Well, to be honest, I knew he would work with me, and I know that I could outsprint him. So yes, if we could stay together, that would be ideal. But my concern was it was so early in the race, and you have told me kind of in the past that it's unlikely something like this is going to stick so early in the race. So even though we had a huge gap here, he didn't seem super motivated to keep it up at that kind of pace, especially with, I think he may have been discouraged having me with him in particular. So you can see he's kind of soft pedaling, and so I did the same, and we just basically killed it.
Okay. Yeah, super interesting. Like for me, I would have been super stoked, and I probably would have gone because that's more of my strong suit. But yeah, I totally get it. You understand how you're supposed to race, and I think it's probably a good call. Because, I mean, who knows? How many guys did he have in the field with him?
It was just the two of them, I'm pretty sure.
So, yeah. So he had no team to control the field at all. So
right.
Yeah,
well, the only guy that he has with him is the guy who they want to win. because he was on the podium the day before in the road race, and is most likely to end up winning the Omnium.
Okay, gotcha. That totally makes sense. I love it. Next guy attacked and you go with it. I mean, that's honestly, if you have no teammates, that's super smart to do. I race like that a lot too. I mean, you just kind of gotta just follow wheels. And the cool thing about this, I mean, you're kind of doing a little bit of a match right there, but still, I mean, it's not a big deal. The field's motivated behind you, and they're all strung out, so everyone's hurting. So I think that was a great wheel to follow right there.
Well, and this is Steve Walter, who races for Velo Club Lagrange, and he actually hit me for a win the previous year at their home race, and so I knew him as another wheel to follow. So,
okay, got it. So how training's been really good this year too. How has your fitness felt going into these crits lately?
Well, I usually race a couple races per day, and I'm trying to get upgrade points, and I have team obligations in some races, so it's nice to maybe be able to race completely for myself for the other races. And when I'm coming into them, the first race I always feel fantastic. The second race, I've been surprised that my legs usually bounce back as long as I have about an hour to recover fairly well. I mean, I have a little less ability to respond to like these blazing attacks and in the P123 field, which usually is my second race of the day. And so, I'm hoping when I move up to the next level that I won't be waxing my legs earlier in the day. But surprisingly, I haven't been dropped yet from even my third race of the day. So my fitness has been incredibly strong, much better than it's ever been before. I'm healthier than I think I've ever been.
Yeah, no, that's huge. I mean, just watching all of your races and seeing your ride files too. I mean, you've been riding really strong in those late races that you've been doing, like the second or even the third race. Like, it's been encouraging too, because I think some of them too, you finish and you're like, oh, my first race, I was like top 5. And it's like, well, that's super cool. And then the second race, you're like, oh, look, I was top 5 again. It's like, okay, well, you're not going backwards. So we're doing something right with training, right?
Right. Well, I think the best thing that a coach provides, specifically you, is reining me in, because I have a supportive wife that lets me be on the bike probably more than I should be. And so I need somebody to kind of pull me back a little bit, because I will go out longer and harder almost always if I don't have somebody watching that.
Yeah, and we've actually been talking about that this week, trying to figure out what we want to do with. You have some group rides starting up, which group rides are super fun and they're super addictive. But we're trying to like figure out a game plan of how we can still enjoy those and have a mental break and have fun on the bike, while also trying to get the solid training in that's needed for like races to continue to make gains and adaptations. So it's also a balance there, which I don't know. There's just something fun that we're navigating together, trying to figure that out. I don't know what your thoughts are on it.
It'll be some trial and error. I mean, part of the issue is that at least 2 or 3 of my teammates show up to Tuesday Night Worlds and Thursday night crit practice in my area, and they're both really hard rides, and everybody claims that they're great training. But obviously, it's unstructured at most. I from what I know from prior years with group rides, any non-drop group ride, any ride that's not a no-drop ride, usually turns into a race for me, and so that can be counterproductive. I've definitely found myself not able to race well on the weekends after doing a couple of those during a week. So I don't know. We got to find the balance. I really like the crit practice. It's a lot of fun. It's only 45 minutes, and it doesn't feel like it kills me too much. But it's going to be. We just don't want me to be dead by race day.
Definitely, we'll find that balance. Looks like you guys are getting a little frisky here now. Like, you had a good bridge move just a second ago up to those 2 guys, and then they immediately sat up, even though you guys still had a gap. But this guy. So what team is this guy on again?
This is FLX Racing Team.
Okay, now see, that is great. His teammate just counterattacked, right? He just attacked, went up the field. Now that guy went and counterattacked. So that kind of sucks for you, because obviously they got 3 guys in the field, because there's 1 behind you. Actually, they got 4 guys in the field.
Yeah,
there's
so
2 in front of you, 1 next to you. Yeah, 1 off the front. So like, that's the huge issue you're going to run into this entire race is they're going to, if they're looking to attack and get off the front, they're going to be counterattacking the field, which honestly for them, that's what they should do. They're playing their cards right. That's what the team that I'm on, Ride Bikes, that's what we do when we show up with multiple guys. We have a couple guys. We just want to get up the road and we play all those cards. So how are you gonna make sure you follow the right moves? Obviously, the dude on the right here with the cool white socks, he's motivated to go off the front.
Mm-hmm.
So you're definitely gonna watch him. How else will you pick which ones you're gonna watch to go with when they keep counterattacking like that?
So, well, of the 4 people that are in the race, 2 of them I know, and those 2 I know are very strong. The other 2 are kind of unknowns. So without having good knowledge of those other 2 guys, I would probably mark the 2 that I know that are very strong. And I mean, the hard part is when they 1-2 punch me one after each other. If the other guys do it, I probably would let it go. But if it's Wes and then it's Mike back and forth, I don't necessarily know, what to do. I can't respond every single time. Even though my motor tends to be one that I can snap repeatedly throughout the race, and recover quickly, I still can't do it the entire race. So it's a challenge.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. That guy just totally opened up the gap and made you like cover across like that. I mean, I hate it when teams do that. We do that sometimes too because it's like, well, I like the guys who are up the road. I'm cool with letting that go. That's just kind of the mentality. And it's also awesome because you force other people to burn matches and jump across like that, which is what they did to you. So like team wise, that's a great tactic.
Oh yeah, they played the cards right.
Yeah, for you, it's not fun.
Well, luckily you and I have talked a lot about, keeping an eye out for those particular moments. And after about 3 or 4 pedal strokes of seeing, that he wasn't going anywhere, I knew I had to go around him.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, they almost get cross-eyed or they just have their head down and they're not fully paying attention. And then all of a sudden they kind of look around the person and realize, oh, there's like 10 bike lengths between us now. Well, that's a pretty big gap. And if the field up front, has an attack and then they go, well, now that gap's going to be even harder to close down. I've seen so many people get popped in races because of that. Or someone in front of them will just go, I quit, and they'll sit up and let the gap open up, and you're on that person's wheel dying, and then you realize that they just gapped you off the back. Now you burn a match to get back on, and all of a sudden someone else in the field does it again, and it's killer, especially on like technical courses. Super hard. But again, this dude, what's his name? Is his name Wes? Is that his name?
Wes, yeah.
Yeah, so Wes, okay, he attacks again, and perfect going with him, and this time he's going full gas, and you guys are about 13 minutes into this race at this point. So this honestly isn't a bad move. This is kind of the area where you can start to think about, okay, now these next couple attacks might actually be something that could stick for the whole race, because at this point people have already been responding to attacks. So what was your thoughts on this move? Were you kind of like, okay, now I'm all in, or are you still kind of testing the waters and seeing if you want to be all in?
Well, I definitely wanted to work with him here, but I had looked back over my shoulder on that 2 corners ago and saw that they were really chasing hard. And Wes and I, we communicated and said, yeah, this isn't going anywhere, and we killed it. Even though we got a huge gap really quickly, they stepped on the gas since we were still fairly early in the race, and they were motivated to get us.
Gotcha. So have you ever thought about getting caught like you did right now? See how you guys got caught? It slowed up a lot. Oh, well, he just did it for you, actually. He immediately counters again. Have you ever thought about doing that in a race?
It depends. I mean, yeah, as my fitness is getting better, it's becoming more and more an option. But just admittedly, up until this year, when I get caught, I'm usually dead. Or last year, I really wasn't the guy who was driving the brake very much. And so I'd often just be just hanging on for dear life until we caught the brake, and then somebody else would counter, and maybe I'd go with it, maybe I wouldn't. But that's a good idea, especially as I have been feeling fresher. Maybe as soon as we get caught, I just go again.
Yeah, I mean, especially with your team too. I mean, if your team, I've noticed when I watch your team, you guys don't really attack a whole lot, at least in the couple of races I've seen you guys do. So what is usually your team's game plan?
Well, I mean, there are 2 different plans. If we're doing a CBR race, which is our local series that we're in contention for both the best all-around rider and the most aggressive rider jerseys. In that one, the game plan's totally different because I'm trying to stay in the front, patrol the front, and try and get somewhere between 5 and 10 laps first across the line, and then we're trying to save my teammate. But he tends to be the type of rider we need to keep him a little bit more up front, and he is so strong that he traditionally has not really liked a lead out train. So we're still working on strategies with that. We're trying to organize a lead out train and convince him that it's kind of the right move going forward with the season. But when we're in a non-CBR race, then it's more like let's mark the really strong riders, and anytime one of those particular riders, we usually kind of come up with a list of 5 or so riders. If we see one of them going off in a move, one of us should always cover it and save either our sprinter Ryan or maybe me, because I'm also a sprinter of sorts. One of the two of us should try not to be the person doing every single cover, because we need to save our legs for that final sprint.
So at what point will you guys get more on the offensive side and just get more aggressive and maybe actually initiate some of those attacks?
I mean, that's a great question. I would probably turn to you and other people with more experience. Admittedly, our team is mostly Cat 3s, and so we probably do play a lot more defensive than we should. I don't know. I guess I would love some insights on when are great times for us to attack, because I usually am looking kind of just to respond to people and because I usually want it to come down to more or less a sprint. That's how I always used to race. My power profile is changing this year, so it's a little different. I'm becoming more of an all-rounder and sprint, less reliant on my sprint. So I'm still trying to kind of figure that out.
Yeah, definitely. This Trek guy in front of you, sorry, when you came across the finish line, he was barely off the back, and he totally flicked for you to come through, and you didn't come through, and then he just hung on, and then you went through that corner, you looked back at you like, dude, what are you doing? You're like, I'm just saving energy, bro. Like, you're doing all the work for me. And then he attacks. That's so funny right now. He attacks right now. Oh, that guy's funny. He must be a little angry, just trying to get away.
It's a rage sprint.
You're right. Just dump watts. It's all right. It's not going to help him later in the race. But yeah, I mean, it's also something when your team's constantly winning. Obviously, I mean, you guys as a team, you guys have had really good results this year. You guys have had a couple of wins. You've had a lot of podiums, and you guys are actually leading CBR right now, aren't you?
So as of the recording, we lost the leader's jersey, and he's about 3 points behind that. So we're hoping we can get that back. That's for the Cat 3 series, and then for the most aggressive rider series, I'm 3 points off of that, only because a very, very strong junior rider in the area lapped the field and got 20 points in one race and took it away from me.
Jeez.
So luckily he doesn't show up to every race, so maybe I'll get it back this next week.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, but I mean, you guys have raced really well, with when it comes to results. It would be interesting to see what you guys could do if you raced a little more aggressively. But then again, we were talking about this the other day. The SoCal crits, I've noticed with watching too, are a little bit different than the NorCal crits. I remember Justin Williams made a joke. I think it was riding uphill with pros on fixed gears. I watched that, I don't know, maybe a year ago. And Justin Williams made a joke about how, like, in NorCal, we go fast. In crits, we go really fast on the straightaways, and that's it. And then he was like, in SoCal, we go fast all the way around the course. And although that was kind of like a joke, and I was like, well, that's kind of messed up, but I get it, because they came up to Snelling and raced with us, and they were like, this race is stupid hard. And it was only because we would go full gas, and then we would all sit up and look at each other. And then we would go full gas, and that's what we do in our crits. We go, full gas for a lap or two, and then no one gets away, and we kind of let up and we relax, and then another flurry of attacks go. Where in SoCal, you guys definitely keep it a little bit more constant on the gas, so it kind of discourages attacking. But this field actually had quite a few moments where you guys slowed up a lot and started to bunch up, and then someone would actually attack, which was that team in the weird looking mustard yellow and blue sleeves. But I just think that's interesting. Like even the CBR stuff, you guys tend to be more just kind of keeping it on the gas and just keeping it in a good rhythm. Would you agree with that?
So, I mean, yes, I would. And, if for your listeners, if they want to hear kind of a little bit more about the insight on that, Tyler, the vegan cyclist, he basically came down and raced with us a couple of weeks before this one. And he mentions, he interviews Justin Williams at the end, who mentions exactly that, which basically is we tend to keep it very, very fast because these teams can have a desire to not let a breakaway be able to establish a big gap really quickly. So the faster they keep the entire race, the less distance that a rider is going to get when they snap off the front. And so, they might get 50 meters versus 100 meters, depending on that. And so that's kind of the way that most of the races down here seem to go. And especially Masters races. Masters races are, notorious for being a smoother, less surgy race. And, I turned 35 here next month, so I have been jumping into these Masters races on occasion. But the hard part is Masters in SoCal is usually, not this one, this is the 3-4, but like the Masters 1, 2, 3s, it's full of former state and national champions left and right. So it's definitely not easier just because we're older.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I absolutely love this. That group started to get up the road, and you just made that dude do so much work to get across, and then you just blew by him at the finish. Like, that is textbook on how to use people. People see that as like a jerk move, but honestly, that is racing smart. And obviously, this breakaway up the field, they're a little bit too big, and they're not motivated to work together, especially when they realize two of the same team are represented. The other guys, if I was them, I'd be like, yeah, I don't want to work either. Whereas the team with two, they also have the responsibility going, well, we don't have to work either because there's two of us and only one of you guys. Mm-hmm. But still, that was textbook using that dude for, I think it was almost a whole lap he pulled. And then you came around him right at the end and you jumped really hard across. And then you made everyone else behind you burn a match to get back up to you. So that was well done. Seriously, that was a good move. I do that stuff all the time. So,
well, I try not to be. Kind of stuff. I try not to be a jerk about it. And if he had flicked his elbow, I would have pulled through. But if you're not gonna tell me to pull through and you're gonna push that hard, I'm just gonna sit in and enjoy the draft.
Yeah, no. If someone's gonna be on the front and they're willing to smash, and they look back like, well, what aren't you doing? I'm like, well, you're still doing 500 watts. Go for it, bud. Like, I'm not coming around that. Yeah, that was textbook though. I loved it. But yeah, now you guys are definitely over the halfway point, and I'm gonna be honest. This is a pretty intense race. I haven't watched this yet. This is the first time I'm watching it. You guys, it wasn't really. It was the team. The team that's well represented. They were doing a great job at just really trying to get up the road or get a split to happen. And that makes racing fun. I love it when races are dynamic like this, and you put people in the hurt locker like. It's just a lot of fun to race that way. How did you enjoy that race? Did you enjoy it doing? Because this is a little bit different than we've been racing with all year. This is a little bit more explosive, a little more attacks. Like, how did you like that?
To be honest, I think it suited me well. I was just a little nervous on the times where I couldn't respond because it's almost like playing chicken. You're like, oh man, are they going to get away? You'd look back over your shoulder. Is anybody going to help me bring this back? And to be honest, there was a lot of like blank stares when I'd look back at not a lot of motivation to help, because I'm known as a guy who will do work, and I do stay up in the top 5 to 10 riders, and I will drive the pace. And so the downside to that is, the upside is I'm probably not going to miss the break as often as I would, but the downside is, it's going to tire me out. So.
Well, yeah, and that's a good point. Like, people are realizing, when they show up to the race and they see, oh, Kyle Kruger's here, they're going to realize, hey, if anything goes, we probably lean on that team and him to work to bring it back, So that's actually kind of going against you too. When you get into races solo, people are probably going to be like, he'll help chase no matter what. We have someone in our area, same way, he jumps in a race and I'm like, I know he's probably going to be on the front a lot chasing stuff. So as a team, we can relax and just kind of watch that and use that and learn how to counterattack that. in order to get away from that person, because that person's pretty strong too and has lots of great finishes this year so far in the past. So, that's something we look for as a team. But yeah, I think it's interesting you mentioned that. So you do feel like there's kind of a target on your back when it comes to who's going to do all the work in this race to pull everything back. Oh, that's going to be Kyle. Like, you feel like that's kind of vibe going around?
Well, I mean, surprisingly, yeah. I mean, maybe that's my ego talking, but I guess I'm getting enough of this. I tend to communicate a lot during races, and I'll see a strong rider go off the front solo, or a couple of guys, and I'm not really positioned to go by myself, or I don't want to because I just went. And I'll try and mush a couple of guys from other teams. They got like 4 or 5 teammates back in the group. I'll be like, you guys need to work with me. We got to bring this back. And I'm surprised how little response I'm getting from that. And, maybe that's because I'm in the, these Cat 3-4 races. Maybe it'll change. I'm sure it will change to some degree as we move into the P1-2s. But to me, that feels like maybe I'm being marked a little bit. Like they know that if they just do nothing and stare back at me, that I'll just get frustrated and rage sprint across, and they can hop on my wheel.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. And yeah, when you get to the P1-2s, it is a little bit different, especially with teams. Like, if the teams, they have someone up the road from their team, they're totally not going to help you out. They'll use you, and if you get it close and everyone kind of blows up, like, one of them might actually try to bridge across really quick. Right. But outside of that, in the P1-2 fields, the teams, they don't really help at all if they have someone on the field. But if they don't have anyone up there, some of them will actually come to the front and help out. Especially, a lot of us know each other because we race each other all the time, so we know all the strong riders. And depending on what the makeup of the break is up the road, they'll chase or they won't. It all totally depends. But yeah, it's interesting stuff. Yeah, I think it might be a Cat 4 thing too. I think Cat 4 is you're still dealing with people who are like, they think they're fit, and then when they get in a race, like, they're doing pretty well, but then when it's their turn to work, they're like, oh, but if I work, I won't have anything for the sprint finish. Right. It's like, well, there's not going to be a sprint finish if that break goes. So you need to figure out what you want to do. And I just think a lot of them just don't trust their fitness at that point, and they're just maybe just a little bit more on the defensive and hope someone else will do that work. That's interesting.
Well, that was a big reason why I wanted to join a team and start moving up, is because I spend a little bit more time on YouTube and reading race tactic books than I probably should be, and I was thinking of all these things in the race that should be happening and not seeing them happen, and realizing that I just need to move to the next level and have a team in order to kind of to change the game from checkers to chess.
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, I was on a team when I was a Cat 4, but it wasn't really like a team, like, we were on a team, but we didn't understand tactics as a team. And then when we moved to Cat 3, like, we were still on a team, but we didn't fully understand it. It wasn't until we got to like the 2s and racing with the 1-2s that you understood, oh, this is a legit game of chess. Like, this is no joke. You really have to strategize. And now, luckily, when we're building a team, like Tyler in charge of our team has been doing a really good job of building a team. Like, we're realizing we need certain chess pieces on the team in order to show up to a race and play a good game of chess against other teams. It's not just like, hey, anyone can be on our team. Like, no, we want guys who are dedicated, guys with these strengths, different things. That way, when we show up, we throw out a game plan, we can execute it. Legion, down in your area, Legion does a fantastic job at this. And they have a lot of young guys on their team too, but they also have all of those guys with who are veterans with a wealth of knowledge that are doing a really good job at, discipling those guys coming up, if you will, on how to actually race smart. And what they took down team, was it Elevate KHS a couple of weeks ago? They brought out like 13 riders to their like 8-man squad, and they ended up taking down Elevate KHS and won the sprint. Like, that just kind of shows you the type of teamwork that they're really dialed into and working together.
No, absolutely. And also the guys on that team, the veterans, are super, super nice guys that even, like, if one of us went up to them and said, hey, would you mind just, telling us what we did wrong there, or taking a look at this video real quick, they'd be willing to help. They just want to elevate the sport. So it's really a pleasure to be racing with so many great guys down here.
That's super sick. So I think you came into 2 to go, if I was correct around right there. We're about the 30-minute mark. So yeah, I think we came in at 2 to go. So what were you trying to look for in these last final laps?
So the question mark for me had been this guy that's in second wheel right now in the red, because he had been really attacking and spending a lot of time up front, and he's from out of town. We don't know him. But I was definitely watching to see if he was going to jump. But obviously knowing that it was 2 to go, and knowing, that this FLX team was going to, with 4 racers, was going to probably organize some sort of a lead out, or at least try and keep a couple of their guys together. I just wanted to stay as close to the 2 guys that I could.
Now, did it ever come across your mind that maybe they had someone sweeping on their team, meaning like they'd come into the sprint and they had a guy sitting on the back and you'd be like, oh, that's their sprinter. But in reality, when he came out of that corner, his job was really to just kind of let them sprint. He would just kind of sit up.
That would have been, honestly, it did not cross my mind. And so if anybody wants to beat my team, there's a tactic I didn't know about.
Yeah. So it's happened to me a couple of times. It's crazy. I'm like, yes, I'm on the lead out train, and all of a sudden the guy in front of me, we get ready to go into the final corner, and he'll kind of just like not soft pedal, but he'll let the gap open up, and the guy in front of him is actually their sprinter. And then by the time you realize it, you got to go around this guy, and then they're already sprinting, and there's a gap. I'm just like, well, yep, I just got swept.
Yeah, no, that's really smart.
Yeah, so I mean that's also something you could think about with your team, is trying to have a sweeper in sprints. Someone who just kind of shuts things down and helps protect, so people behind can't catch up and come around. So now, what do you do here? That train you're trying to watch, they just jump to the front immediately. What do you do?
So if any more of a gap had opened up than this, I would have went around these guys. They looked like they were lowering their head and putting in some power, so I figured that they were going to close it down. But if it had gotten any leash, I would have immediately jumped around them. I will say that somebody had mentioned earlier, it was actually the head referee, had basically said, whoever's first around the last corner is who's going to win. It's such a short sprint, and so that was in the back of my mind coming in here as well. Is that I need. Go ahead.
Yeah, go for it.
I was like, I need to be up here. I can't let too many people be in front of me. With 3 corners to go, I need to be in a position to be first wheel. And so that was what my thought process was going in here.
Definitely. And we're on 1 lap to go now, and it's honestly this is kind of chaotic a little bit. Looks like that team's starting to get organized, and you're about ready to get swarmed, so it's definitely not fast enough. Plus, this is the headwind section, I think you said.
Right, oh, man, and I got kind of trapped here.
This is so crazy. Yeah, it's definitely not fast enough. That's the downside. Like when you have a team and you have a lead out, keeping it fast keeps your sprinter in position and keeps all this stuff safe. Like we work on a team lead out with our team, and we have voice commands and stuff we use for making sure the pace is going up to keep our sprinter from getting swarmed, or if he's starting to get dropped because he's getting swarmed, we'll yell down or something to bring the pace down and get him back on and take off again.
Well, the headwind really kind of killed me there. So here we are coming with a few corners to go, and I know I'm too far back. And
you're way too far back.
So I basically just say, okay, this is the race right here. So I put my head down, and you can see based on my power, I do like 3 discrete, really hard jumps. I'm basically trying to like draft hop between each of these guys, and this guy's going too slow, so I just go around him. And then now I have a sigh of relief here. Basically, I'm like, okay, I know this is where I wanted to be. I look back, and we've got a really big gap here. And I expect all 3 of these guys to stay together, but for some reason, I guess this guy did a little too much work, and he drops off. As we come into this last corner, I was a little worried. I'm like, I'm not last wheel, but then I hear the guy say, go left here. So and I know he's going to pull off. So I try to take the inside line here. And luckily, I had a little bit better sprint.
Dang, dude. Yeah, that's so sick. Wow, you totally saved your race. That was amazing. That's the first time I watched that. Wow, I did not realize you were that far back, and you totally saved your race. That was sick.
I will say that the headwind is what led us to be in such disarray, because it really picked up. It was probably closer to 30 miles an hour of wind through that headwind
Jeez.
section, and it was just blowing us all over the place. We were just trying to keep a straight line, and that's why it looked so chaotic. But then I got kind of squeezed between two different lines of riders, and I couldn't move up at that moment, which is when I had planned to. So I tried to just stay patient and wait for, you know, that moment where I was going to be able to light it up, and luckily it worked in my favor.
Dang, that was crazy. But this was your first one in the season, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's first one.
First one in the season, and you've been so close to getting another one. Like, I don't know how many times you'll send me a picture of you on the podium. It's like, yes, he's on the. I'm like, oh, it's not a win, but for me, I'm like, yes, he's on the podium. Like, that's what we've been training for. Get on the podium, get those wins. Like, those will come too. So this was super sick, and honestly, you raced that really well for being outmanned that bad. And that team, I mean, they played a good race and they had a pretty good lead out. I'm surprised. I mean, that their sprinter, he definitely faded coming out of that corner. Like, you bested him, so that's super sick. They executed everything perfectly in that race, but you told them not today. That's pretty awesome.
Well, I appreciate you going through it with me. You know, it was nice to have all the training that you've been designing kind of pay off, and I'm looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, dude, but you're doing all the hard work. I mean, I just tell you what to do, and then you go out and you do it. So, I mean, if you didn't do it, it wouldn't be working, right?
True story.
Yeah. Sweet, though. But yeah, anyways, thanks, Kyle, for joining me on this. As always, guys, super appreciate all the support. Keep training hard, keep riding hard, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.